Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Patrick J. Brown, your change architect. Welcome to the Change Matters podcast, where we have conversations and creative spaces. Welcome, welcome. If you're out there, go ahead, please, and let me know that you're here. I'm streaming on YouTube, streaming here live this evening, and want you to connect with us. Please go ahead and share this with your friends, your family. Bring everyone in and let them know that the Change Matters podcast is here. I tell you, it's been a good year, a good week. I hope that everyone's doing well. I'm going to be having a great conversation this evening. You know, one of the key things about dialogue is that if you're going to change the direction of a thing, you want to change the conversation. And if you want to change the conversation, you want to change who joins it. And today, join with me this evening is an incredible thought leader in the area of children. And I tell you, I'm excited about Monique Jackson. This is her first book, her inaugural event, book release of her book, Mommy, Why Is Everyone So Mad? Now, I tell you, wonderful illustration. Looking forward to hearing from her. So go ahead and bring your children around, your nieces, your nephews, mama and them, daddy and them, aunties, uncles, mamas, memas, grandmoms, granddads, right? Parents, you name it. And everybody bring them in, because I want you to be a part of this conversation, because we want to encourage our children and also those that care for them. So this is her first book of children's books, and she's advocated, for children and work with children and families for over 25 years. She is a founder of the Kingdom at Work, which is an online source of inspiration and community building network. She serves as an area leader in the largest school district here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she holds bachelor's degrees in elementary education and master's degree in executive leadership. So she's really a lover of all things children and really seeing them develop. And so if you're out there, I want to encourage you, go ahead and share. Let us know that you're here. Please make sure that you comment. Make sure that you hashtag Kingdom at Work. And we're looking forward to having this conversation this evening. So how many out there are readers? How many readers we got out there? And how many that are out there that are saying, you know what, I'm a reading type of person. I enjoy children's books. And I want to show you her book and really talk through how you can order it as well. So we'll bring that up and we'll talk through the book, Mommy, Why Is Everyone So Mad? Author Monique Jackson, illustrator Tuli Adker. And so we'll make sure that we show you how you can order the book. So before we get started, what I want to do is just bring up her site and information here. You can just scan the QR code or type in kingdomwork.com/shop, and that will get us started. All right. Well, look, folks, I'm excited about this. This is an awesome opportunity for us to begin to really, really connect with our children and see them excel. And I'm going to bring on this incredible author. I'm excited about her coming on board. So go ahead and make sure that you tag everyone, get your friends on, let us know, and that you're enjoying the conversation and being part of this. And we'll see you. Well, hello.
Good evening.
Are you excited? How you feeling about this book?
I feel great. I'm celebrating.
That's awesome. You know, I tell you, it's something amazing when we see something we've had in our minds and had in our hearts, and we're now actually seeing it come to pass. So, I'm excited about Monique Jackson. Thank you so much for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, those out there that are viewers, wanting to just really present this new author, the author of Mommy, Why Is Everyone So Mad? Monique Jackson. So thank you for coming on the Change Matters podcast with me this evening.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So share with me a little bit. What are we going to toast to? That's what we do normally before we go into our conversation. So what are we cheering to? What are we toasting to today?
I'm toasting to legacy because this book is going to leave a lasting
Mm,
impact on children everywhere, including my own and my grandchildren.
all right. But cheers to legacy, everyone. To legacy. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited for you. I want to say congratulations. This is an incredible book to be able to see. In all of my podcasts and the authors I've interviewed, this is the first children's author that I've ever interviewed. And so I'm excited about this. I have children myself. I'm an uncle myself. And so this is exciting to be able to see this happen and see this manifest in your life. So share with me your thoughts right now. What's going on inside of you now that you've seen this materialize in front of you?
Wow, it's incredible. It's been a process and a journey. As a writer, your projects are
Hmm.
special to you. And when they come to life, it's just like when you open that box and finally see the book, it's like giving birth to a baby. So I am still in awe. I'm excited. And I'm just grateful for what God has done by allowing me to write this story that will touch the lives of children and the adults that read to them everywhere.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited about that. And we're going to dive into this. And can you tell us a little bit, tell our viewers a little bit about you and how this book evolved?
Wow. Well, I am a mom of three adult children. I'm an educator and I taught first and second grade for about 5 years. I also taught preschool, and I've worn many hats as well as being an advocate for children and for quality education. I still work in the school system now, but I work in a different role in transportation. And so I still kind of work indirectly with children. But I love to travel. I love to sit by the water. But I also love to see people fulfill their purpose in God. This book is definitely something that I think I've stepped out of my comfort zone because I hadn't written anything before, not to this
Mm.
magnitude. But I'm excited about the impact that it's going to have.
That's awesome. And you know what? We're excited for you. You got a lot of congratulations that are coming in. Renita says
Thank
here,
you.
I read children's books daily with my 4 year old, always looking for new books to share with her. So you got some congratulations that are coming in here from all over the place. So just want to let you know people are
Thank you.
excited for you and for the writing. So you said it was out of the box. This was, did the idea come and what started that journey for you as it relates to the idea and bringing it from idea to reality?
Wow. Well, I will tell you that this book was birthed out during the pandemic. As you know,
Hmm.
I'm an educator. I'm someone I do write personally, in my journal, but never to the place of actually writing a book. And I'll tell you that as a student, one of the things that really kind of, I think, hampered me, from feeling like I could write was seeing red ink on my papers that teachers would put down, if you made a mistake. And so any teachers that are out there or from, way
Mm.
back, those that red ink really kind of discouraged you because it's just like, you know what, I can't do it. But I thank God that during the pandemic, in the midst of our lockdown, our country was, going through, lots of division. And at the time we were dealing with the deaths of, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. It was during that time, watching the protests and seeing the social injustice that, my creativity came alive and I began to write. And God gave me the opportunity to, pen this book. And it's almost like it came out of nowhere. I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes when God puts us in a place of isolation, when you're by yourself, you find that, you can
Mm,
hear, and your creativity
hmm
begins to come alive because you can hear God more clearly. And in that quiet time, I found myself penning the manuscript for Mommy, Why Is Everyone So Mad? And the story, I love it because it's told from the perspective of a child. Because oftentimes, Patrick, as adults, we were thinking a lot about, what we were going through, how we were feeling, how we were being affected in the pandemic. But think about how children were being affected during the pandemic as well, and how they were watching their parents and family members,
mm,
and siblings in the home.
mm. Wow. So during the pandemic, as the country, the world was experiencing isolation, insulation, separation, scarcity mindset, so much was going on at that time. But then now, what about the children? What about the children? And this book, addresses that. So what caused you to think about children, and move in that vein specifically?
Well, I really think about the fact that I know how adults were affected. And I know for me, I
Okay.
live alone. I would reach out to different people, and, I was, kind of listening to their experiences and their struggles, and, people were frustrated. And so if we as adults were having those types of experiences, children basically look at us and we're the model. And oftentimes children don't always have a voice,
Mm,
or we think that children are not listening, or they're not hearing. But children are they're very absorbent, and they observe everything, they look, and they're looking at us. And so I could only imagine what children were experiencing as well. During this time, there was a high percentage of child neglect and abuse in the country. So, I mean,
mm,
as an advocate for children, as an educator, of course, my mind went to where, what are thinking? What are children feeling? What are children experiencing? And they were experiencing some rough times, just as we, the adults, were going through a transition and a tough time as well.
mm. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that about, potential neglect because of some of the rapid changes that people are experiencing. The unsurety during those moments. They're looking to us. They're seeing how we react, how we respond to circumstances. And so now you create this voice, this space for children to express themselves through your book. Can you tell me a little bit about is there a central character in this book, or characters, or you don't have to say the names of them right now, or maybe just give me a synopsis on how it shifted from these pandemic realities to the theme in the book.
Well,
You can
I would
connect those
tell
dots
you
for us.
that there are two characters in the book, and they basically were inspired by my granddaughters who are twins. Um, and so with the book,
Okay.
it's like you said, thinking about the perspective of, of course, the adults in what we were going through. One thing that stood out
hmm
to me was, what, it was important to tell this story from the vantage point of a child. And one of the things that I did
hmm
in the beginning of the story, the main character basically wakes up and she hears a noise. And from that point, because I don't want to give it away, there is a sequence of events that happen that offers an opportunity for a dialogue to open up and begin between the child and the parent.
Hmm. So it's opening up dialogue. That is incredible. I like that premise. Now I'm going to ask this, and I know this is not one of the questions that I sent to you in preparation, but tell me a little bit why stories are so important for children, telling stories about situations like this. Why do you think that's important that we engage children in storytelling?
Oh, well, storytelling has been around forever, from our African ancestors on down. And I think that storytelling is a wonderful way for us to not only, bring life to certain situations, but also to help them to imagine. It opens the door for exploration.
Mm,
It oftentimes, I know, my mom used to say, when you read a book, they didn't have a lot of money, they came from a big family, but she said I could read a story and I went to a different place. And so
mm,
stories take children different places, but stories also provide opportunities for children to have an example of how to share, of how to have a voice. And in this story, I think by telling this particular story, it's going to give a voice to other children as well. I think it's so important that we create safe spaces and environments where children feel comfortable enough to be able to talk to us, whether we are educators, if we're parents, if we're family members. Our children are experiencing a lot today. And so this book is actually going to be a great conversation piece for young children to be able to express themselves, to share their
mm,
feelings, and even to talk about the emotions they're seeing a parent have.
mm. So they're able to have a safe space, express their voice, have a conversation, but also be able to talk about the emotions or reactions they're seeing in adults, because sometimes that does not take place. So this story and storytelling in general helps bring that to life. And I appreciate what you shared about imagination, because many times as we get older and we become experts as adults and life hits us, we lose that sense of imagination. We don't do all that movement that we used to do when we were kids. Then we become adults, and it's like we're stoic, and we just lose that. And I'm grateful because it brings us back to that place of imagination. You're right, to explore. So, what do you think about as far as the subject matter itself? You know, how what kind of principles would you say um, and concepts went into the construct of the book, the theme of the book? What kind of principles?
Wow. Well, I think that it goes back to me as an educator. Even as I wrote the book, I was thinking
Mhm.
about, different standards that we could pull from the book, different ways that we could actually, expand and teach on the books. And I will tell you, one of the standards that we teach in first and second grade are character feelings. So, as the book was being written and as it was unfolding, I began to think about how, we could make connections, how children could identify how they're feeling, how children could open up and be able to have a conversation and not be afraid to, approach a parent to talk about something that they were seeing. I think that, this book is definitely going to, again, give a voice to children. And it's also going to give them an opportunity to use that voice to say how they feel, but also to explore feelings and to, have an environment where parents have, a great emotional space to be able to share and talk with their children as well.
Hmm. And so what happens in that exploration is that they're heard and that trust is reinforced. And as a result, they're able to express more. I appreciate that. That you've drawn from concepts and translated those for children to read and to engage in. So, what did you learn as you wrote this book? What did you actually learn?
Wow, that's a really good question for a teacher. I learned a lot as I wrote the book. I learned to be
Uh-huh.
able to listen and to really hear, in my quiet time. And I learned how to, have more confidence and trust myself in the process because I didn't know what I was doing. I was writing, I was simply expressing myself. I didn't have a step by step guide as to, how to write the book or how to, put it together. But it began by putting a pen in my hand and continually going back and building on the story and really hearing God to allow it to unfold. So I definitely learned that, I can write. I learned that I can expand and that I can grow, even in this second, phase of my life, I can learn something new and I can still grow.
Mm,
God is still watering me.
mm. That's powerful. I thank you for that because, sometimes we become stuck. And so while that's powerful that you learn, and I wanted to ask that because sometimes we don't know that we've learned something. So I'm going to take it further and say, as you learn that, what did you uncover about you as you wrote in this subject matter specifically?
Wow. I definitely uncovered more about, being open, um, because I can be very reserved. So far, I'm pretty private. But I think that this book has, forced me to really take a look at number one, who I am as an adult, as an educator, as a grandparent. And I want my grandchildren and others to be able to come to me and I want them to feel safe, that when they do, if they want to talk about something or something's happening in their life, we have to be that safe ending place for them. And so this book taught me that, what, children are very
Yeah.
observant, they're always watching, and we have to be so careful about our responses and our reactions because we're teaching them how they too need to be able to respond, whether it's to conflict, disagreement, however, it let me know that guess what? They're looking, we've got to be the example and we've got to be those role models for them.
Mm. So really begin to monitor, you become more aware of how you process. You become more aware of how you respond and how you react to circumstances. Um, would you say that there was some healing as you wrote? And if so, why?
Yes, I definitely would agree. Yes, I think that writing is freeing. It's an opportunity for us to be creative, but it's definitely freeing because as you begin to pen, your manuscript, your stories, or if you're journaling, there are things that are on the inside of you that also get released. And I mean, of course, I didn't grow up in a perfect home. I didn't see adults that always, had, kept their cool or that always said the right things. However, writing this book was a great way for me to be able to kind of shed some light on things that I had experienced and how I needed to be able to, exhibit change even in my own life, because I have granddaughters, I have six, and I want them to grow and to be socially and emotionally healthy. I want them to make good choices. I want them to be able to have healthy relationships. And that's something that is important. Not every child has that. And we are seeing more and more of
Mm,
that present today, even in 2022, the struggles that children are having.
hmm. I'm so glad you mentioned that because as an author and as an educator that you are, mother, grandmother, I want to pull from your calling as a pastor and also your apostolic calling. One of the things about being a pastor is shepherding or caring for young sheep. And part of the apostolic role is to pioneer or set principles in motion and foundations to help people in understanding exactly who they've been created to be. So I wanted to pull from those two particular roles that you functioned in. And how would you say that there are elements of mental wellness for children that are contained in this book, and what do you think conversations and writing books like this has to do with the mental wellness of children? But if you can answer that from a pastoral and from an apostolic lens as an author.
Hmm. That's a loaded question, but it's a good question.
Yeah, it just hit me there. I was like, So I was thinking
Okay.
about that because, you know,
Well, I'll tell you this, as it's between the pastoral hat, the apostolic hat, the educator hat. God uses everything that we have to address the needs
nah,
of the people that we're called to serve. And I think that this book is one way to really hone in on the needs that are present today in the lives of children and families. With the way that, folks are day to day with working, they're not at the dinner table to sit and have conversation together. There's so much going on, and our children are bombarded with technology and social media today versus playing outside like we did when we were coming up. And so I think that this book is kind of reflecting the fact that we need to get back to being able to have those one-on-one conversations. We need to be able to talk to one another, and communicate effectively and have healthy conversations. And I believe that, as an apostolic leader, as an educator, these things are important. They help with the developmental process for children, for them to be able to grow as they learn, but it also helps for their social and emotional well-being. They need to know how to have effective communication. They need to know how to be able to express themselves and not be afraid to share, if they are having difficulty. Right now, I read an article that was penned a couple of weeks ago, just talking about the challenges that children are facing, in 2022. And they were looking at data and statistics for the past 2 years. And one of the highlights, I know the American Academy of Pediatrics said that we were in like a national crisis when it came to children's mental health. They said that they had seen like the highest number of ER visits for anxiety, and depression as a result of what has been taking place during the pandemic. I think that, for us as apostolic leaders, as believers, as educators, we have a responsibility not only to pray, but to put action plans in place to support our children, because, right now, there is no sense of normalcy. Even now, with everything that's happening, they have been out of school. They have lost their, some of their socialization skills, the ability to, communicate and have good friendships, the ability to be able to be a child. And
yeah,
it's a lot.
that's incredible. I mean, you're sharing. I'm just listening here and absorbing this because you're helping us not only just address what the children are dealing with, but also the guardians, the parents, aunts, uncles, grandmas, you name it, caregivers. And, I was thinking about the title. I just want to pause here for a moment and we'll come back to the conversation. For those of you that are watching, I'm speaking this evening here on a Change Matters podcast with Monique Jackson, who's the new author of Mommy, Why Is Everyone So Mad? What I do have at the bottom of the screen is the ways that you can order the book. You can order it by going to kingdomwork.com and kingdomwork.com/shop. And also, I just want to share with you that there's a QR code for those of you digitally that would like to order that. It's $16.99. It's an incredible investment for you. I want to bring this up just to give you an opportunity. If you'd like to scan, you can scan that QR code and purchase that. Now, if you are here in the Charlotte, Concord, North Carolina area, she will be here on site launching Kingdom at Work, which is her ministry, but also doing a book signing. So if you like to purchase it, you can either purchase it here or you can purchase it now and come pick up your book. So just want to give you a couple of options there, just for those of you that are watching. You can and just let you know that that availability is there. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I want to ask another question that kind of came to my heart as I was thinking about this podcast this evening. And, one of the things, this book itself, just the title, Mommy, why is everyone so mad? Why is it important for children to ask questions like this title?
Wow. I think that it's important for children to ask questions like this because number one, it lets you know that they are aware, that they have an awareness of your emotional state, but it
Mhm.
also offers a teachable moment for the parent to be
Mm.
able to, sit down, and it opens up a dialogue. And that's what I love. In the story, when it opens up, the main character, walks down the hall, and the first thing she sees is she observes her mom looking at the television. And as I gave you a little bit of background, as to when I was penning this manuscript, we were, at a point, in our country where, we were seeing protests. There was lots of, social justice initiatives taking place. And so imagine during that time, anyone that had children in the home, we know that when things are happening, we have conversations, we're talking, and our children are listening, and they're observing, and they are absorbing. And so I think, Patrick, it's important for children to ask these types of questions, when they see a change in their parent or when they notice that something is wrong. It's important for them to feel emotionally safe to ask these types of questions. And I think that when they do this, it opens the door so that when they're having certain feelings, or when certain emotions are welling up in them, they feel comfortable being able to express themselves to the parent or to a loving caregiver or educator. And this
Mm.
is critical. One of the things that children are experiencing now with anxiety and issues with mental health. There was a situation with a child who was bullying another student, and it's unfortunate. But today, with cancel culture, with the adults, our children are seeing different things like that, and they're not practicing kindness, being a good friend, at school, but they sometimes can say some really mean and harsh things to one another.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I think that it's critical that our children learn how to navigate their
Mm.
feelings. They learn how to navigate and communicate well enough to be able to share. And it's important to build your children up before they go to school. They have to be covered, because when they get into that school environment, it's a different arena. And everyone doesn't, live the way you do at home, and their morals and values are not the same. So we have got to set our children up to succeed. And that mental health and emotional wellness is critical. It's critical at this point in time for our children to survive and do well, because without that, it affects them academically. Because if your mind is not there, if you're not feeling good about yourself, if you're not feeling self-confident, and you don't have, a high level of self-esteem, you're going to have issues around learning academically as well.
Mm. These are some great nuggets. We really have a lot that we need to own and consider. Uh, the fact that there's an, you know, there's so much absorbing that's taking place. And sometimes we don't filter. Children, sometimes they don't have the capacity to do so. So we need to monitor the intake, the influence, the impact of images, information, subliminal context, And so I'm glad that you're having expressing that. And I think it's important because one of the principles that I live by is, we ask questions, we answer questions, and then we question answers, and that creates a lifestyle of inquiry and a lifestyle of continued growth. And so I'm grateful that you said that. So in this instance of storytelling, um, how do you how do we maintain, I guess, healthy spaces and places for our children to process? How do we maintain that, even in a smaller scale? What are some ideas you have from that? Because this book it relates to that. So I wanted to just pick your brain about that, and maybe you can share a few things with us.
Well, I think that in order to have safe spaces, number one, you have to create them. And the way to do that, first and foremost, is to be open.
Hmm.
When I was a girl, my mom would always, we grew up in the hood. So my mom did not want us to go outside and learn things from people outside who weren't going to direct you and guide you in the right way. So she always said, come back to me and let's talk about it. And don't be afraid to ask me a question. And I love the fact that what she said after that was, she said, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find out and then I'll come back to you. And I think
Hmm.
children need to know that, like you said, we don't have to be experts. When it comes to children, children love you just for who you are. We don't have to, it doesn't matter our degrees, how much money we make, what kind of house we live in. Children love you just for who you are. And when they know that, there's a trust there, we can create spaces
Mm.
for them, whether it's in the classroom. As a teacher, we would have like a quiet space. Sometimes if children were feeling overwhelmed or they needed a break or they needed to step away from the group, there was a soft space for them to go to where there were books. And again, I said it was a soft space. There were pillows. The colors were bright. And that's one thing, you can create a space in your home. I often talk with Coach Mel about my space of vibrancy. And so, we create these spaces, in our homes, in
Mm.
our workspaces. So how much more can we create a safe space for children? And I'm not talking about always a physical space, but with children, colors are important. Having books, having paper and pencil and crayons, different things for them to be able to do to express themselves, because sometimes children can draw a picture. They may not be able to articulate with words, but guess what? They may draw a picture and come and show you a picture. And from that picture, you may look and they may be able to talk to you and tell you about the picture or the character on that piece of paper, but they're really sharing thoughts, that are happening with them inwardly. But I think number one, what we need to do is to be open and not be in a state where we're not ready to receive when children come to us. They need to feel comfortable coming and to share. And, in my environment for work, bus drivers are the first point of contact with children. And one
Mm.
of the things I tell them, before a child ever sees the teacher, before they ever get to the schoolhouse, the first point of contact is the school bus driver. And I said the key is to build those relationships with those students. Just say good morning. Break the ice, get to know them. You'll find that bus drivers take in a lot of information because children feel like it's a safe place. They know them. That person's consistent in their life. They can depend on them. They're going to come and get them every day, and then they're going to listen. And that begins to build that, relationship of
Mm.
caring. And so I
Mm.
think for us, whether we're parents, educators, whatever contact that we have with children, we need to, number one, have a love and respect for them and foster that relationship. And I think that that's what helps us to build those safe places and spaces for them to communicate with us and to share, what they're experiencing in their lives.
This is powerful conversation. Grasping so much because this is a conversation that we've needed to have for quite some while. And I'm appreciative how you're opening up this dialogue about children, about conversation, about questions, about color, about drawing, so much that we as adults, we need to learn to go back to that aspect of our childhood and create those types of spaces, um, whether it be physical, emotional, mental, or whatever, to be able to invite that warmth, to invite that care and that concern for us. In every woman, there is a girl, and in every man, there is a boy. And that's just the reality. That's the reality of life. And I know I'm grown now, yeah, but you still need to play. You still need to imagine. Okay. And I appreciate how this book opens that up, that conversation, and it teaches that lesson specifically from the children's view. So I want to thank you for that. Um, Tell us a little bit more about, tie this to what you're doing with Kingdom at Work. That is your ministry. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about that, just briefly, if you can touch on that. And how does this connect with Kingdom at Work? Because here you're in your bio talks about how you're the founder of Kingdom at Work, an online source of inspiration and community building network. So, how will this book strengthen Kingdom at Work as far as building community building network?
Wow. I think one way that it will strengthen is that I believe this book will plant seeds of hope.
Mm,
When this book is read and shared with children, children are going to realize that I think the overall theme and essence is that everyone matters.
mhm,
And so I will tell you that Kingdom at Work was born during the pandemic. In my place of work, 10% of my staff lost their mothers to COVID, including my director. And it was a very difficult time. It was very painful, very emotional for many of my staff who were still having to show up to work. And we weren't transporting children at the time, but my team was basically delivering food to families because they wanted to make sure that children had a consistent meal to eat. And then we were delivering instructional materials and technology to keep the academic piece going as well. And in the midst of all of this, it seemed as though
wow.
every 2 weeks, another staff member lost their mother. And as the apostolic leader that I am, I love people. I care about them, and my employees are not just employees; they are people. And so when I see them, I know their role in the workplace, but I see them as people first. And when I saw the pain, when I saw what people were experiencing, the grief that was on them was like a garment. And I could not imagine. I still have my mom, but I saw the effects of it. And, God placed it upon my heart to start the prayer. I talked with my team and I said, we need to pray. We need to go before the Lord. There's so much happening. There's so much pain. People are struggling, and we need to do something about it. And they agreed. This is not part of their, paid assignment, but they walked along with me and we began praying on Zoom in November of 2020. And every Wednesday we would meet and come together and we began to see transformation spiritually. We began to see God, bind up the broken hearts. We saw God meet needs. People were building homes. They were getting married, in the midst of the pandemic. God was moving and he was blessing our area. He is. I don't want to say was because he did it then and he still is. There were many areas who were hard hit by COVID, but we were sustained. And as a result, I wanted to, provide a platform where we could encourage our staff, where we could help them to heal, where we could help them to transition, during their time of grief. And it just began to grow. And we would, open up and, I told my executive director what I was doing, because of course, when you're in the workplace, people have their own beliefs and they don't want you to, place your beliefs or try to force. And being a leader, I had to be careful and not blur the lines.
Yeah.
However, I also had to be the leader that God called me to be, and to allow this platform to be born.
That is amazing. And so now that the platform has been created, the book is now written. It was born in the midst of struggle, isolation, pandemic, lessons learned, healing that came, conversations that needed to be had. And now look at this. It's manifesting. It is here. Ladies and gentlemen, Monique Jackson, her book, Mommy, Why Is Everyone So Mad? New author, Tell You. You're a budding author of children's books, so we're expecting more to come from you. So are you going to be doing any type of readings here soon, or what are some of the plans for the book? I want to just go back to, again, to how to order the book. I'm going to go ahead and place this back up on the screen. You can go to Kingdom Work. That's kingdomwork.com/shop. And or you can scan this QR code right here, and that'll get you over to the actual site itself, which is this right here. And then you'll go over here to the shop, and you can go in and take a look at the different products. And right here, you can place your order. Kingdom at Work paraphernalia, and okay, Kingdom at Work wear. All right, and the book here. So I just wanted to show everybody that. All right, that's excellent. I'm so excited for you and grateful that you have done this, and you're helping our children and families. So Saturday, tell us what's going to happen on Saturday for the Kingdom at Work and the book launch.
Oh boy. Saturday is going to be a grand celebration where we are just going to give God thanks and praise for what He's done, for the birth of this book that will touch lives of children and adults who read it all across this country. We are going to sign some books. There have been books that have been ordered already. Some of you that are on the line tonight, thank you, because you've already purchased books in advance. So we're signing them, and we'll be celebrating. We're going to have some great food. We're going to take some pictures, and we're going to celebrate God. And we're going to do it making sure that we're masked and sanitized.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So it's going to be here at the Renewal Center, actually, 159 Church Street in Concord, North Carolina. I'll make sure I put that in the comments. What time does that begin?
The event will be from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So people can order now, even as we speak, and they can come pick up their book, or they can come and pick up the book when they arrive, or purchase it here. You have a question from the audience. For what age is this book? What's the age for this book?
I'd say between 4 and 8.
Between 4 and 8. Okay. All right.
K through 2.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I am excited about your book. Congratulations. I think it's important that we continue these types of conversations. Hopefully in the future, you'll be able to do some book readings and visit some spaces where you can tell some stories, and you can share with children and create atmospheres, and even help parents create those kinds of atmospheres. So thank you for being on the Change Matters podcast this evening and sharing with us. And so this coming Saturday, 159 Church Street, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., you can come meet the author, Monique Jackson, as she does her book release. So you can order you can order now, or you can come and pick it up on 159 between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. at the Renewal Center, 159 Church Street. All right. Well, cheers to Kingdom at Work. And I will put up here again, you're on social media. So you're also on Facebook and Instagram. And also they can go to your website. They can order other products. They can subscribe to your blog and connect with you with what you're doing in the area of Kingdom at Work.
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. Well, Monique, I know we're just about at time. I want to thank you for coming on this evening. I appreciate it and look forward to those that will be coming and connecting with us at her Kingdom at Work and her book release launch this coming Saturday at 2 p.m. Thanks for coming on this evening.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Well, everyone, there you have it. I tell you, it's so beautiful to see the productivity that's taking place, so many ideas that are generating. And, one of the things I want to encourage as we close out the podcast this evening is that, make sure that you shift from ideation to implementation. Your ideas and your imagination matters. And when you move from imagination to implementation, then you'll begin to experience a validation that you've never had before. And so that's important. Here in the Change Matters podcast, our focus is to create conversations, to create that space. And so for those of you that follow me, I want to encourage you to subscribe, please, to my It's Patrick Brown YouTube channel. I'm going to be producing some different aspects of conversations and dialogue. And to kick this off with a conversation about children is so, so important. And so if you're an author out there, if you're a thought leader, and you would like to be interviewed, please feel free to inbox me at www.iampatrickbrown.com. And let's have a dialogue and see what we can do to create some thought leadership conversation in the Change podcast. And if you'd like to support us, the information is there streaming at the bottom. All right. Well, thanks so much. Again, I'm Patrick J. Brown, your Change Architect. I want to thank you for coming on and being part of this conversation with Monique Jackson, introducing her book, and I look forward to connecting with you again. And that's, one of the key things about Change Matters. It is really about experiencing transformation. And that's one of the key things we do through conversation. All right. Well, until next time, thanks so much. Talk with you soon.